Alright, in this video we're going to create a little application called printSum and talk more about the principles of programming, about data types, about variables, and a little bit about how to use the command line. So on the left I have a terminal open, and on the right I have my Atom text editor open. So traditionally we would go into Atom and click File, Open, and we would navigate to a path on our hard drive which has our folder where we want to have our files. So for me, I have a folder called Code, and then if I go into DevNano, it opens up my DevNano folder, and I have a Computer Science folder, and then I have a Learn C folder. So in the terminal, like we talked about in the last lesson, if I open it up, I am in the users Brett folder. So if I do ls like I just did, you can see there's a code folder. So I'll change directory into the code folder. I'll list the contents of that folder again, and you'll see there's my DevNano folder. So I'll do cd space DevNano. And then I'm going to hit Command K, which actually clears the contents of the terminal and gives me a fresh screen. So I do that often just to keep the clutter off of the terminal window. So if I do ls, you'll see Computer Science folder and the Learn C folder, which matches up to what I have here. So if I change the directory to go into the Computer Science folder, I do ls, you'll see the same files that I have here. So I'm in the right place in the terminal, and I'm in the right place in my Atom text editor. So traditionally in Atom, you're used to creating files by hitting File and then going down to New File, but I'm going to show you how to do that in the terminal. So if you type in touch printsum.c, that will create a new file called printsum.c, and you can see over here that printsum.c got created. Now if I hit rm printsum.c, that will remove the file, and you see it's gone. I also have an extra file over here called printsum from when I was practicing this, so I'm going to hit remove printsum. You don't need to do that, but I want to make sure that's clear. So I have this folder, a few files in it, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to do touch again and type in printsum.c. That will give me my printsum.c file. Now in the Atom text editor, I'm ready to start programming my printsum application. So in this application, what we're going to do is create a little file that asks you for 3 numbers, and then it will take those 3 numbers and it will add them together for you, and then it will tell you the sum. So it's kind of like a mini calculator, a simple calculator that requires 3 numbers and then just does some simple addition. So all C applications and command line applications in general need to have a main function, and the function returns an integer. So we're going to type in int main and then void, and this is just the common pattern you need to use, and so it knows to come in and execute this method when you run your application. And the first thing that we're going to do is declare our 3 variables that we're going to need to use to store the input from the user. So if you remember, we're going to ask for 3 numbers and then we'll add those together. So we need some variables or some memory to store their input, and then we can do the summation at the end. So I'll do int a, I'll do int b, I'll do another integer for c, and then an integer called sum. So make sure as you're following along, you're typing all of this in, you're putting in the semicolons, doing this exactly. So int space a and then the semicolon. If you leave this out, you'll get an error, so make sure you follow along exactly. So a practice that I like to do is after I type in some code, I like to compile the code and run it just to make sure that there's no errors. So I'll come to my file, hit File, Save. In the future, I'll use the Command S shortcut key here, but there's Save. Then over in the terminal, I can type make print sum, and that will compile the file. And you see everything looks good. Then I'll execute the file by typing /print sum. That executes. It looks like everything runs fine. Now it doesn't output anything because I didn't tell it to output anything, but I know that there's no errors when I do this. So now I'll come to the part where I tell the user that they need to, basically I'll tell them what the program needs to do. So to do that, we'll use the printf command here. This is a function that takes a string, and we'll say, we'll start a new line and say, welcome, this program adds, and then we'll do a new line, and then we'll add a semicolon there. So we'll save that with Command S, then come over to our terminal and type make print sum, and that compiles it. And you see now we have a warning. So this is one of the reasons that I like to do this, because you know that because we typed this in, the warning is coming from this. It's not coming from anything else, because we had typed this in, we compiled it, everything was fine. So we know that the error is going to be here. Now, as you get into programming, debugging these errors is something in the beginning that's a little bit hard to do, because this looks scary. But let's go through what this is saying, and you'll have to learn to just get used to this and learn to read exactly what it's telling you and try to understand it. So let's start here. So it's saying print sum.c, which is our file, and it's saying 7:3, which is on line 7 in the third column. This is where this error is coming from. So if I go to print sum.c, you can see this is showing me my line numbers here, because it's really common to have to debug this way. So I'll come down to line 7, and of course line 7 is that new one I added, so it's pretty obvious, but this is telling me where the error is. So line 7, column 3, and then it's giving me a warning. Implicitly declaring library function printf. So printf is a library function, and we're using it. And it says with type int, and this gives just a thing called a method signature. It's just telling what that method is. We'll learn about that a little bit later, but so don't worry too much about that. But just know it's giving us the method signature. And then it's showing the command, and then again it's saying print sum.c line 7:3, and then it gives us a little tip. It says include the header standard io.h, or explicitly provide a declaration for printf. So saying, well, you're using printf, but nowhere in your code are you referencing the idea, a function called printf. So you either need to declare one, or you need to include the header standard io. So I'll come to the top and do my standard include, and include standard io, just like it's telling me. I'll save that. Now I hit up arrow, and if in the terminal, if you hit the up arrow, it will scroll through the commands that you've used, and if you hit down, it will go back down. So if I hit up, it takes the last command that I ran and it puts it on the screen. So I do that a lot because it's faster than typing in make print sum every time. I can just hit one button, hit the arrow, and it will give me that command. So hit enter, looks like it compiles. I'll hit up twice, and that gives me my my executable for print sum, which is /print sum. So I'll hit enter there, and you can see welcome, this program adds, which is exactly what I wanted it to do. So I'm going to come in and add another print statement. So we'll have printf, give it a string, and we'll say 3 numbers, enter 3 numbers, and then this one will give 2 new line characters to give it a little space. So I'm going to save that, hit up twice to get my make print sum, make sure it compiles, hit up twice again, and we'll get the executable for print sum. Welcome, this program adds 3 numbers, so everything ran well, and that looks good. So let's continue on to the next thing. So we'll come to line 11 here, and we'll type in printf again, and we are going to say in the form NNN, 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 and then they need to hit return. So we're just giving the user some instructions on what they need to do, and then we'll give them a new line to create that new line. Save that. Now another little shortcut here, if you type in make print sum, you can do double ampersand, and it will run make print sum, and then it will run a command, another command after that. So if you hit /print sum, this will actually compile it and then it will execute it. So I'm going to do that so I don't have to keep doing two commands over and over again. So here we go. It looks like it worked. It compiled correctly, and then it says, welcome, this program adds three numbers. Enter three numbers in the form NNN, 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 and then hit return. So the next thing we need to do is get some input from the user. So we'll use the scanf command that we learned before. And scanf is in standard I/O here, so we don't have to include any other libraries to get access to that function. So we want to grab three variables or three items of input. So the format we're going to do that is using %d, which will capture an integer, and then we'll do a space and then another %d, a space and then another %d. And so that's saying, we're going to read the line here, and they're going to put in an integer and then a space and then an integer and a space and then an integer and a space. And we need to take those integers and we need to assign them to variables. And so we're going to assign it to A, and we're going to assign it to B, and then we're going to assign the third one to C. So if you remember a few lessons ago, we talked about this syntax where when we're assigning the value here, this scanf wants the memory address of A, this integer A, so we have to use this symbol here to say store it in the memory location for A, and then B and C accordingly. So we'll save that. Hit make print sum. I hit up, which will give me this command again, make print sum and execute print sum. Looks like this worked. Asks me for the three numbers, so I'm going to do 1, 1, 1. And it exits because I didn't tell it to do anything else. So everything ran well, so I'm going to continue on. And now I want to actually add those numbers together. So I'm going to say my sum variable here, I'm going to take that and I'm going to say sum is assign the value of A plus B plus C. So what this will do is when we type in 1, 1, 1 over here, the first one will be in this first position, and that will be assigned to the variable A, and then the second one is in the second position here, will be assigned to B, and then the third one, which is in the third position, will be assigned to C, and then we're saying sum is assigned the value of A plus B plus C. And so in this case, 1 plus 1 plus 1 will equal 3. So now we can come there and say, okay, printf, and we want to say the total is, and then we'll do %d, and then two new lines. And then we need to give it the value, so we'll say sum. Put our semicolon there, save it, press up in the terminal, hit enter to run it, and we get our program. So enter our three numbers, so 1 space 1 space 1, and it works. The total is 3. So let's go on and finish up the application, and we'll say printf, thank you, have a good day. And then we'll do the new line, add a semicolon, and then like good programmers, we'll return 0, which is saying that our program is finished and exited without any errors, so we return 0. And that's just a Unix convention that we have. So save that, run it again. We get this time, let's do 2, 2, 2, and that the total is 6, which that's right. 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. So thank you and have a good day. So a couple quick notes here. When we do printf, let's use this printf here. When we assign this %d is saying enter in a string, but we need to get a value from a variable. So we can't just put in the value here because it's somewhat dynamic. And the d stands for an integer. And so the way that the function works is that you first give it the string, and then you have to give it the variables to input into the string. And if it's expecting one variable in the string, then you need to give it one variable. If it's expecting, in this case, it's expecting 3 variables in the string, this one, and this one, then I need to give it 3 variables. So one thing that I could do is to show this in action, I could say printf, and I could say, okay, let's just actually show them the math. So the first variable plus another variable plus another variable equals another variable. So you can see that the string is asking for 4 different variables in here, which are of type integer. So now I can give it 4 variables. So A, that will go into the first one. B will go into the second one. C will go into the third one. And sum will go into the fourth one. So if we put our semicolon, we save that, we hit up again to compile and execute. It says, welcome, this program adds 3 numbers. So I'll say 1, 2, and 3. And so it says 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. The total is 6. Now it looks like I have a little bug here because I forgot to put a new line character here. So I'll add a new line character. Save that. Run the application again. Here it says, welcome, this program adds 3 numbers. Enter 3 numbers. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 2, and 3 again. And so it says 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6. The total is 6. Thank you. Have a good day. And again, that is because this printf statement, we said I need 4 dynamic values, 4 variables, and then I gave it the variables here. And that's how that works. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to continue to take things really slow. But just in summary, we talked a little bit about the terminal, gave you some more commands to run and some quick tips on using the terminal. Also talked a little bit more about variables, assigning values to variables, and then using some expressions here to do some addition. So go and play around with this. I mean, what would happen if you wanted to do subtraction, right? If you put in subtraction here, saved this, it would no longer be sum, so you would want to, maybe change some of the naming around, but you could play with that. Run your application again. Now if you did 1, 1, 1, it's going to say the total is -1. Now there's a bug here because this is saying plus, 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 but you can go, I think you get the idea. Go play around with that. Maybe try multiplication, try some division. In our live class, we talked a little bit about the modulus, which you can go look that up online if you don't know what that is. You can also try some just generic math, like using parentheses. And so if we need to say A plus B times C, from math class you learn order of operations and then times C. So just play around with that, get used to what it's doing, try to break it, and see what the warnings come up with. But play with that and have a good day. Thanks.